That is the hill that Marvin Gaye was shot on by his pop. This was a conversation that I was having with a buddy named Russell. We were there in LA. One of our friends that we grew up with, her name is Jessica. Her dad lived on the side of the hill off of Mulholland Drive. And his fence was the border to Marvin Gaye's house. And so as we were looking out off the third-story balcony, we're looking over the top, you can imagine, of Marvin Gaye's yard, and then his house is right there. And my buddy Russell is pointing and saying that's where he, was running up the hill, and his dad shot him, there. And we were kind of taken back by this, and we thought it was kind of strange too, because we were driving into, from LA. I think we went to Universal Walk or something like that, that night, and we were driving back in to her house, her dad's house. And as we're driving, we turn the corner, and it's right by Marvin Gaye's house. And on the radio, Sexual Healing comes on. Now, this is not like in the time of Sirius Radio or, Pandora, or where you get to choose your music. This is literally like, I don't know, you guys can all remember when you used to listen to the radio, it was like shooting craps. It was like rolling dice. Like you were hoping that your favorite song would come on, but you had no idea. And especially if you didn't have enough money to be able to have a CD player in the car and you just had the radio. At that time, we had the radio on, and right as we turned, it was, I don't believe in the fact that random things happen. I think that everything was designed. And as we drive around the corner, though, Sexual Healing comes on, one of the greatest songs of all time, done by Marvin Gaye, and we're passing Marvin Gaye's house. Well, we thought about that, when Russell said about, there's where he got shot, which was in his backyard. His dad shot him. And we're thinking about that moment earlier in the night, and we were like, man, how awful is it that happened? That was some foolish behavior, like his pop. Like, what place would you have to be in your head, in your spirit, in your mind, anything like that? Where would you have to be to harm your son, let alone kill your son? And we were thinking, like, that's some definite foolish behavior. Well, obviously there was some adult beverages around, and there was, a lot of different things happening that night. And but Russell and I got into this conversation about, kind of foolish behavior. And one of the stories that came up was like, if you had ordered a car and the car wasn't all the way done, but you really wanted the car, and you went to the plant and said, no, I want my car. And they said, no, not all the pieces are on. And you said, no, I got to have my car. And then you asked for it and asked for it and asked for it until they finally gave it to you, but it didn't have a steering wheel. And they were like, fine, you just bothered us so much, just take it. And you took it and you got out on the road and it didn't have a steering wheel. That's a pretty foolish decision, to force something into being as opposed to allowing it to develop and be ready for you to be able to accept it. And so we were talking about this that night, and as I was spending my alone time with God this morning, I was asking him about desires on my heart that I have that haven't come into fruition. I've been asking him, why is this thing happening? My wife just got her kit stolen from her car in valet, and it's like a $15,000 or $20,000 kit that she works with, and it got stolen, and there's other circumstances that are happening. I'm asking God, like, why aren't you just bringing the blessing? And what he helped me to realize is that it would be foolish for you to ask and force me to give you the blessing when you're not prepared for it. So that was tough. And as I sat down with Proverbs 26 today, it talked about, it helps us to realize that how simple it is to detect big foolish behavior. Like when we looked at Marvin Gaye's dad and him shooting his son, huge foolish behavior, awful. It impacted us all because that was one of the greatest musicians of my dad's time, of my time. I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's so easy to detect that. But sometimes the small little acts of foolishness are overlooked. And that's what Proverbs 26 opened our eyes to. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
I posted on my LinkedIn this morning, what is the most foolish thing that you've ever done? And then I just put a happy face and said, Happy Friday. And my buddy Michael Stark reached out to me and he said this, I'll quote him. So Michael Stark, you should come on the podcast and we should talk about this. He said, ask me the next time we're together. It's a doozy. And all of us have these foolish, like big foolish things that we've done. One time I was in New York, we were doing a show for, I was working with Paul Mitchell, and IBS show in New York is one of the biggest, well, at the time it was the biggest show and it was the most prestigious, all these things. Well, not only that, but to be able to do main stage is like the biggest. And so we had multiple main stages there, and there's, probably 1,500, 1,000 people, 1,500, 2,000 people in the audience, whatever it is. And I remember the model, we were just, I always had so much fun with the models and had so much fun, just connecting with them, stuff like that. And this one girl, she was mixed, right? And she was mixed, but her hair was really, 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 really over curly. Well, if you know any Black women who have longer hair and you ask them to cut it short, it won't be a very long conversation at all. Generally, what I found in my career when I was in the professional beauty industry for so long is that if I kept women's hair longer, they had the tendency to be happy with me. And especially with Black women, I found that the longer I kept their hair, the better off I was. And the more that they loved me and wanted to get me Christmas presents and all those things. So fast forward, I'm in New York. I've got a model, and she is a very, very beautiful woman. She got super long hair. It's probably down the middle of her back. And if you're a Black woman and you're listening to this, and I say a Black woman with hair down the middle of her back, you know that hair is staying. She might be a model in a hair show, but you ain't doing no haircut on her. Well, I wanted to show off a little bit because I'm on main stage in New York, and I want to show off and, try and show my my boss that, I'm worthy of being in this spot. And, you want to show a big change to the audience. It's like, again, 1,500 people in the audience. You want to like show out, you got some ego. So I start talking to the girl in the model room, and I'm like, hey, can we do a change? And she's like, you could trim it. And I said, well, what's a trim to you? And she just showed me, she's like, oh, it's just like, a microscopic trim. And I said, well, and we started talking, blah, blah, blah. We're talking garbage back and forth to each other. And I don't know how we got on the topic, but we started talking about breakdancing. And I said, oh yeah, I used to break dance back in the day. I had a break. Excuse me. I think that cough came on because my old butt should not be talking about breakdancing, but because I'm wearing a Run DMC shirt today, I'll tell you about my days of breakdancing. And you used to have breakdancing names. And I remember I chose mine. And at the time I thought this one was going to be a great one. But now I look back on it, and even, maybe a couple years after, I was like, man, this sucks that I chose that name. And my name was Baby Fresh, right? And, I've loved breakdancing and all this stuff. And we were talking about it, and I told her about my breakdancing name. And she was like, oh, you can't do X. And we were talking about freezes, which a freeze is a pose. Like you would go down and you would put your hands down and almost do a handstand and put your face on the ground. And it's called a freeze. And I was like, I could do a freeze for longer than you can. And she's like, oh, I'll challenge you. I said, okay, cool. If you can do it longer than me, then I can't remember what I was going to give her. I was going to give her something. And then I said, but if I could beat you, then I get to cut your hair however I want. And she's like, all right, bet. So she goes first, and we time it. And I'm like, man, she does pretty good. But I was like, dude, I'm about to win this bet. So I get down, and this is a model room with Paul Mitchell. I mean, this is the biggest brand in the professional beauty industry, but we're just acting a fool back there. And I get down and I do my freeze and I hold it and they're timing and I get through and I beat her. And now I get to choose her haircut. Well, I was like, I'm going to take that thing off. So it was down the middle of her back, like past the bra strap. And I told her that I'm going to take it to her chin. Well, for any other woman on the planet, this could be a normal thing. It could be a celebration, whatever it is. But to a black woman who has her hair down past her bra strap and she's about to go to her chin, not by her asking, but by losing a bet, this thing can't go good. But we get on stage. We have all our models set. We're in a line, probably 5 or 6 of us, and I'm just like, this was my dream to be in New York and on at IBS on stage, Paul Mitchell, main stage, all the stuff, and I get to do a model, and I just go at it, bam, 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 and I cut this thing, and it looks amazing. I'm so happy, and she's starting to feel it too because the crowd is they're reacting, and then. I get so excited because I get done first and I'm thinking, I not only got done first, I had the biggest reveal, all this stuff. And then I just stand her up and I take the smock, the little smock on, and I take the smock and I just rip the smock off. But I didn't realize that she did not have wardrobe on. We were not supposed to have the models walk. We were going to have them do their hair and then we were going to move and have them go into wardrobe and then we're going to have them walk. But I was already committed. So I took off the cape and this girl is in her drawers, just her drawers. And my boss looks over at me and is like, oh my God, what'd you do? But then this girl just stands up and she owns it and she just walks the runway in her drawers, new haircut, all 9. Crowd goes wild. Oh, it was so amazing. But I tell you, like my boss grabbed me afterwards. He was like, do not ever send someone down the runway with no clothes on. But the audience thought just because it was the hair show, it's New York, maybe that was something new. But it was a foolish decision on my side because I didn't even think about, right? And when I think back on that, I cringe on it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this was horrible that I did this. But everything turned out, we went through whatever it is. But we all have things that we do that are foolish, that we don't think through at the time, or we didn't plan it. We didn't think it all the way through. We didn't have, as the word would say, prudence, thought of the future. But I want to ask ask yourself, like, what is the most foolish thing that you've done? And then talk about it. Tell the story about it. Get excited about it. And when I tell that story now, I laugh at it. And I laugh at that stuff because it helped me. Number one, like when we got back to the model room, I mean, the girl was happy as she can be with losing as much hair as she did. But if I was to do it again, I probably wouldn't have cut the girl's hair off all the way because, the show is about the model. It's not about me, but I made it about me. And then I would have checked her wardrobe too, so she didn't walk down naked in her drawers. So let's get to Proverbs 26. How does this all connect? How does Marvin Gaye and, foolish things? It's because generally we can see foolish, like big foolish things from a mile away, but we do little foolish things that pile up, those little inch stones, right? We pile up, they become a milestone. We don't realize the foolish thing till it's big. But what God was showing us in Proverbs 26 is there's little tiny things that are foolish that pile up that become those large foolish things. And I would hear this as a kid, like, don't be a fool. But I wondered, like, what is the components of that? Well, 26 broke it down. So in Proverbs 26, first one, let's see, avoids discipline. When you avoid discipline, he knows, they know. Avoiding discipline is one of the toughest things. I avoided it the other day. I do a little ritual in the morning and I was honestly, I didn't want to do it. I was cold and whatever. And I didn't do it. And because I didn't do it, I didn't feel as well. I wasn't as alive, physically, and I didn't move my body the way that I should have. And I paid for it. And it was just, I avoided the discipline of it. The discipline is doing the right thing, even though it doesn't feel good. That's what discipline is. And so avoiding discipline is a foolish act, but it's a little tiny bit. So just look at this. One of my friends, his name is Patrick Umel. He says that Kaizen, never walk past poor quality, right? And so a series of small improvements, you can say it in that way too, is the way it translates. Imagine the last time you walked through your house, you saw something that needed to be cleaned up and you didn't clean it up. Imagine the last time you walked through your room, or imagine the last time that your kid said something, or that you said something, or has something happened in your business and you didn't clean it up. Just don't avoid discipline. And those are small little foolish acts. The second one that I looked at was doesn't read the room. And that was me. In my foolish moment, I didn't read the room. Number one, I didn't realize that a girl who, a black woman who had her hair down past her bra strap leg, to be able to, connect with her for the rest of her life, just trim her hair, make her hair beautiful, and make sure that she has, wardrobe on before you take her smock off or before you take her robe off. That's a big one too. So read the room. Sometimes it's about reading the people that are in the room, the mood that's in the room, all those things. I remember I went and this is awful. I went to do a talk, but my friend didn't tell me what the company was that I was speaking for. So I went up and I did a talk, and I was talking about my son and joking. And I said something to the effect of, I can't remember, that maybe I didn't discipline him enough. But then I found out that the company that I was speaking for was for the advocacy for sexual abuse. And they were talking about abuse. Now, I wasn't abusing my son, but I made a joke. And then I ended my talk. This is tough. I ended my talk. I got done. And then I said, "Sexual chocolate, I'm out." And I dropped the mic. This is probably not the greatest place for me to do that. And so you got to read the room. You got to understand that's a foolish act. Another foolish act is that you lack discernment. What is discernment? It's being able to look at something and say, like, does it have a great result? Yes. But is it for me? Can I do anything that I put my mind to? Absolutely. But is it right for me? That's discernment. Looking at it, taking the time and looking and saying, is that the right thing for you at that particular time? Small foolish act doesn't use due diligence in onboarding. Think about this in a company. Think about when we said, and this can go in a company or it can go in a relationship. Think about the last time you had someone that you're like, man, I got to really get rid of this person. And then you thought back to, wow, I could have asked them a bunch of questions that would have got me to this answer of having to let them go before I actually hired them in the first place. Imagine that in a relationship, though. I had so many girls being in the professional beauty industry, young girls that would come up to me after a talk and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm struggling with my man." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, what's going on?" They'd tell me the whole thing and they'd be all emotional. And I would be like, "Where did you meet him?" "Oh, well, I met him in the bar. And, he was dating another girl at the time, but their relationship was completely done. It was already over, but he just hadn't moved on. And then we connected." And I was like, good Lord, you didn't do any due diligence at all. And I'm not surprised that this relationship is not working out. Or they would tell me, "Oh, my man cheated on me." Okay, well, where'd you meet him? I met him in the bar. And he was dating somebody else, but they were on the outs, so we connected. He was cheating on that girl with you. What would make him not cheat on you with somebody else? So a small foolish act is not doing the due diligence in the onboarding process. And whether that be in relationships or in business, we got to look at those things. And it's amazing because 3,000 years ago, God prepared us for this, but a lot of times we overlook the small little acts of foolishness, which foolishness is just the lack of wisdom, and wisdom is the right use of knowledge. So if there's the lack of the right use of knowledge, then it's foolish, right? And where's the beginning of all wisdom is the fear of God, which means to just respect him, which means we're spending time with him. So God is just saying, if you spend time with me, there will be an absence of foolishness. Because I'll tell you these little things as you go along, and then the little things won't pile up and become the big one. Little foolish act doesn't check his or her ego. And most of the time, every time I have a foolish act in my life, it's because I didn't check my ego. Ego gives way to pride, and then pride comes before the fall. But when we're humble, that's the antidote for ego. So be humble, realize, and I tell you, when you spend time with God, then you'll be humble because he'll show you that He's in control. He's a lot smarter than you. He's a lot wiser than you. And that he's got everything, and everything's going to be okay as long as we lock into him, right? And then little foolish act is gossips. Gossip is like adding fuel to a fire. Think of this fire triangle. I learned this. There's heat, there's fuel, and then there's oxygen. That's the fire triangle. So to be able to sustain fire, you have to have heat, you have to have fuel, and you have to have oxygen. If you take one of them away, you break the fire triangle and the fire goes out. Well, most of the time we breathe oxygen into that fire by gossiping. We add fuel to it by the content of what we're gossiping about. And we add heat from the friction that it causes from us gossiping about the people. Take one of those away, just one of them. The oxygen, the words that you're talking about, the content of what you're talking about, and the friction that it adds. Take away one of those. And the way that you can is by not gossiping. A small act of foolishness is just being lazy. Now, lazy is not resting. Lazy is not doing right work. Right work is diligence. And diligence comes from spending time with God and having the wisdom to know what to do at the exact right time, and God will show you. So laziness is just a lack of diligence, which is right work. Doesn't mind his business. Small foolish act is doesn't mind his business. And these are ones that I tell you, if you mind your business, everything works well. It really does. Like when you desire somebody else's stuff, then you have the tendency to compare. I fall victim to this a lot. Social media causes it to happen. I have had it happen in business. I've had it happen in my life, in my relationships, and all these things. And what I want to invite you to do is look at it and ask yourself, where in your life are you not minding your business? And I could tell you, that's probably where there's challenges. So where there's a challenge, ask yourself, am I minding my business? And when you mind your business, those challenges have the tendency to dissolve and go away. Lastly is that a small foolish act is just not to tell the truth. And this is through our words, our actions. And what is the truth? The truth is when you spend time with the one who created you, when you spend time with God, he'll let you know, he'll let you know the truth. I got asked yesterday I got to speak to Keller Williams, VIP in Las Vegas. Thank you, Rob Castro. You're incredible, and you look like Mario. Who is it? Mario Lopez. Yeah, that's who it is. But he asked me about this. He was like, what happens when you get in a funk? And I don't know that I answered it as great for him on the webinar, but I was thinking about it, and I was like, I go back to my mom, and my mom always told me just one word that solved everything, and it was shit. Like, I didn't do the right thing. I'm down. I'm in a funk. Shit. Like, what can you do about it? You can't do anything about it right now because that was a seed that was planted and it kind of grew. And so, like, think about, do I want to be in this place again? No. So start planting seeds that will bring the type of harvest that you want, but the seed won't grow overnight. But also too, like when I say shit, it's just giving yourself some grace, realizing that I was late to work today. Shit, I'll make it better tomorrow. This relationship, the person broke up with me, or, my friend doesn't want to talk to me anymore. Shit, like I'll make it better. I can't change what has happened. I can change what is going to happen in the future, but I can't change that part of it. So give yourself some grace and be filled up with tons and tons and tons of grace. And the way that you could do that is by filling your heart with truth. And how do we do that? It's through our eyes, through our ears, and through our senses. And that's the only way into our heart. And so when you fill your heart up with so much truth, so much love, so much joy, when it fills up, then it overflows out your mouth. And then you start speaking love, and you start speaking joy, and you start speaking truth, and you start speaking wisdom. And then guess what happens to your actions? They start to happen because your words then start putting you in motion. Once you speak it, then you start to do it. If you fill your heart up with truth, with wisdom, with love, it'll come out your mouth, and that will transpire through your hands. And when those things are in line, it creates an irresistible vibe that people don't even know why they want to be around you or want to buy or want to consume what it is that you're doing. They just want to be around. And that's the reason. The reason why is because when your vibe is aligned, it makes people feel great in your presence. because your vibe is not the energy that you bring into the room. It's the way that people feel when you leave. So as we finish up today, look at this. Like, I invite you. It's so simple for us to be able to see the foolish things. Like when Russell and I were talking and we were looking at Marvin Gaye's backyard and looking at the hill that he ran up and his dad shot him. That's a huge foolish act. But imagine all the little foolish thoughts that his dad had before, that if someone would have spent time with him and he would have filled his heart up with truth and love and joy, that he wouldn't have got to that large point and done that foolish act. I thought I was going to sneeze there. Most of us react, and we can see large, foolish acts from a mile away. But a lot of times the little tiny foolish thoughts and actions go undetected. The next time that you have a desire that you want so bad and you're wondering, why isn't it happening? Sometimes you're just not prepared for it. Sometimes you're just not prepared, and sometimes it's not prepared to be delivered yet. Think of the car. You order the car, and then you want it on this date, but it's not ready. It does not have the steering wheel. And if you take delivery of it, you're going to be out on the freeway with no steering wheel, and that was going to cause a large, foolish act, but that started with a small, foolish act. And see, my brother told me that. I went to him a couple months ago. It was probably about a year ago, and I told him, there's some things that I want that aren't happening. And he's like, they're probably not happening because you're not ready. And I was like, man, that's insensitive. But he was right. So take a look at Proverbs 26. It's unbelievable what you'll see in it. Check us out at the Vibe Room, which is November 5th, and it's a live version of the podcast. And if you want to follow along with Inchstones too, it's Proverbs 26. It's in the book there, and it's 3 months of journal. You could get it on Amazon there. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain we